Coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. Well, that was some news that just dropped this morning. I don't know if you guys were able to read the Canucks Daily article, but a question that Canucks fans across the province and the country, including myself, have been asking since this new management regime has been installed, really, that question has finally been answered. And it's a question that's really riled up more and more attention as this offseason has progressed because President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford really, after the season, went on a little media tour himself about basically his positioning on where the Canucks were. And he was very open and honest and candid with pretty much everybody he talked to on mainly the future of Quinn Hughes, which disgruntled a lot of Canucks fans, including myself. The future of Besser and what went wrong between Miller and Pedersen. And basically, he went to the media and explained all of his thoughts in very, very clear detail, which I enjoy, obviously, as a media member from any GM that isn't the one who runs my hometown team, because in this area of sports management, keeping your lips shut is always the best course of action. Negotiating through the public has never, ever resulted in good results for a team. It's resulted in good things for players at points like NFL holdouts and stuff like that, people wanting to get new money. But when it comes to management, you want to keep pretty much everything in house. And this morning, it's all but confirmed that this guy who is out in the media doing his best Jerry Jones impression, he is the one making all of the background and personnel decisions for the Vancouver Canucks. This is concerning, not just because of what I mentioned about him seemingly not being able to keep his own business in house and instead trying to defend himself and his decisions to media members when all of the best GMs and managers in sports history really have obviously talked to the media, but have really felt secure in their decisions. It doesn't feel like Rutherford is totally 100% confident in the decisions he's making by the lengths he is going to defend them. And the reason why this is concerning, this report that came out, was the only way that I could defend Rutherford and his different, spouts to the media was I thought we kind of had not a good cop, bad cop situation, but a loud cop, soft spoken cop situation with Patrick Alvin, who is still the Canucks' general manager. The general manager typically in hockey makes all of the personnel decisions, and the president of hockey ops just kind of oversees him and kind of puts together all of the puzzle pieces, if you will, while the GM does the legwork. It seems like the roles are reversed here, which sucks, to be flatly honest. I really thought that this was going to be Rutherford as the public face who speaks out to the media, who's kind of the overseer of the Canucks, and then Alvin as the guy with his legs on the ground, really looking at scouting and trade possibilities and all of that stuff. It doesn't seem like it's that kind of partnership. It feels like now, according to this report, it's a lot more of a benevolent dictatorship, if you will, with Rutherford at the head of the table. And the first decision they made this offseason really speaks to the power that Rutherford currently has in the front office as they re-signed Derek Forbert to a 2-year, $1 million deal. Now, this seems like a bit of an overpay for me, especially when I talk about these other guys that they've signed to similar deals who have just been tragic additions for the team. But I'll start with the positives. When Rick Tocchet left the Vancouver Canucks, he expressed to, I think it was Donnie and Dolly, that there was a void in leadership in the locker room, especially after the JT Miller and Pedersen thing went down. People were afraid to step up and really take control of the room. Forbert, according to Tocchet, was one of the leaders who was able to kind of ground the team and keep them in the right direction, foot after foot going forward, which is cool. I respect that he is that kind of presence in the locker room, a kind of calming, stabilizing presence, which is obviously something the Canucks need desperately right now. I also, on the ice, respect the fact that he is an unbelievable penalty killer, one of the best defenseman penalty killers probably in the NHL. He obviously has great size and he has no fear of using it. He's pretty good in the corners. I question a lot of his breakout tendencies. I think he makes a lot of bad decisions, and he's obviously not a very good puck mover. So, with that said, he definitely seems like more of a $1 million kind of man to me. And it's concerning for me with the deal he signed, the type of deal he signed, rather, because in terms of players to fill out the margins of the team, like six defensemen, bottom six forwards, that kind of thing, backup goalies, like the Canucks have a pretty rough history of these kind of signings. If you just look at last offseason, Danton Heinen signed for pretty much an identical deal. I think he got $225,000 more. Vinny Desharnais signed an identical contract to what Forbort is signing right now. So I don't have a whole lot of trust in this management when it comes to filling out the edges of the roster. But at the end of the day, $2 million for Derek Forbort shouldn't kill you. And when you look at the moves that the Canucks are going to try to make this offseason, which are many, considering the holes that they have to fill, especially in the forward core, it's all right. I'd like to save that $1 million for something else, probably sign him for a 1 year, $1 million deal. But if you do that, obviously, as a UFA, another team is probably going to make a run at him, especially a team like, I don't know, New Jersey or something like that, who needs an extra bit of size on their D and penalty killing. So, what are the moves that the Canucks might make this offseason? Well, one of the moves that has been loudly whispered throughout the NHL for around 4 months now, actually, is Bowen Byram. Obviously, a local BC boy, played his WHL with the Vancouver Giants, his WHL hockey, I should say, with the Vancouver Giants. But as much as I love Bowen Byram and how he's been playing for a destitute Sabres organization, last year he almost had 40 points. He was a plus 11 for that team. I thought he looked really, really comfortable in his new top two, top four kind of role. I don't think it looked like it was too much for him. And especially when you're a defenseman on a bad team, it is very easy to get overwhelmed and kind of hot potato the puck, not wanting to make a big mistake. I didn't see that from Byram. I saw a lot of control of the puck. I saw a confident skater, but the Canucks, like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, defense isn't what they're looking at. I think they're pretty set with their defensive core, to be honest, especially if Willander comes and plays in the NHL next season and if Mancini keeps developing the way he has been developing so far during this Calder Cup playoff run for the Abbotsford Canucks. So when you look at forwards, a guy whose name pops out like a sore thumb to me is Marco Rossi because he seems like a flawless fit for what the Canucks need this offseason. He was the Wild's number 1 minute logger at center during the regular season. He's 23 years old, but it looks like the bridge has been completely burned between him and Minnesota after his minutes were all but completely cut during their playoff loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, to the Vegas Golden Knights. So it seems like he's more than on the trading block. It seems like the Wild are almost actively trying to move him. He is a 60-point scorer last year. He was a +3. He almost brought in 25 goals. He's fast. He doesn't quite have the size that the Canucks would probably prefer in their forward core. We know how much the Canucks love getting tall players. He's only about 5'9", probably weighs about a buck 80. But when you're as desperate for top end forward talent as the Canucks are, you just have to look past those little things like how tall is he and just little stuff, because the main hole that he fills is much greater than the fact that he doesn't quite fit into the size requirements typically wanted for a forward on this team. So he's an RFA. So you could definitely try to offer sheet him. He's going to look to want about 7x7 reportedly. He's looking at kind of that Matt Boldy deal that the Wild recently signed him to. Now, offer sheets never happen in the NHL, so I don't know if I see one happening this year, especially with a guy who has that much upside talent at only 23 years old. So I think more likely is the Wild re-sign him and then trade him right after for a little sign and trade thing. So for the Canucks, they actually have many assets that they'd be able to deal. It's just a matter of cap space. Probably trade the 15th pick, which I'm sure a lot of fans will not be happy with. But this is a weak draft. And obviously, the Canucks got no help with the draft lottery. So I wouldn't cry to see that pick go. And then you could trade a prospect like a Willander, maybe a Mancini, maybe there's plenty of guys who have raised their trade value enough in the AHL that the Wild will be interested in acquiring them and getting rid of Rossi, who just again appears like he's kind of on an island over there. So that is definitely one that they could look at. But another one that's popped up in the recent days that I think is just as interesting and could be a better fit is Drake Batherson. Now, this has not been reported from the Canucks side, but many Ottawa beat writers have reported that Drake Batherson is available and teams have been inquiring, not acquiring, inquiring about his trade value. Now, to me personally, this is not surprising after his playoff run, if you could dare call it that. He was just flatly garbage to me in the playoffs versus Toronto. He disappointed me thoroughly, especially because of how much I was rooting for Ottawa in that series, to be authentic with you guys. But he is a very, very talented forward who put up 68 points last year. Definitely a 30 goal scorer in his future to me. He scored 28 the year before this year and then 26 this year. He seems primed to hit that 30 goal mark. Now, he lacks a bit of defensive IQ, no doubt about it. He makes a couple of extra skill plays than he probably should in the margins of these tight games. That'll just drive coaches nuts. But again, going back to the Rossi point, it's kind of a good idea to ignore those little minimal, I don't they're not minimal, but those negatives when the fact that you have such a gaping gap in your top 6 that needs to be filled, he can fill that and add 70 points to it. That positive addition is so much more than the negativity that he might bring on the defensive end, especially when the Canucks' defensive core outside of Hughes and Hronik is really built to just keep pucks out of the net. It's not really built to generate offense because obviously number 43 can just basically do that by himself on the back end. So I think Batherson is definitely someone that the Canucks could look at trading for. Now, his value is going to be probably even higher than Rossi's, considering the fact that he didn't have the end of season. What's the word I'm looking for? The end of season, not shenanigans, but the end of season I'll just say it flatly, the end of season benching that Rossi had. I mean, Batherson was at least playing throughout the series for Ottawa, even though he probably shouldn't have. But anyways, I see a lot of runway of development for Batherson as well. He's obviously quite a young player. He was he's 6'3", which fits right into the size that the Canucks would want for a guy like that. But the thing is, he's not quite as young as Rossi at 27. He doesn't quite have the same amount of room for development, but a 6'3", 70-point scoring winger sounds like a pretty good addition to replace Brock Besser, if you ask me, because in my opinion, that Brock Besser ship sailed as soon as the deadline passed. And the Canucks just kind of accepted that he was going to leave and had one of the worst trade deadlines in the history of the NHL where they didn't trade anyone, didn't acquire anyone, basically just kept the status quo and missed the playoffs and got a terrible draft pick out of it. And I could rant about that trade deadline forever, but I'm not going to. You guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about it already. It was the worst. I've never seen a managerial decision or series of decisions where they just sat on their hands more embarrassing than the Canucks just standing pat at the trade deadline when clearly they needed to make a decision either to let some people go because they were UFAs and get some stuff back for them, or go all in with these UFAs, one last big run, try to make the playoffs, try to make something out of the season, and they didn't do either of them. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in this Canucks front office currently. I hope they change my mind. Those are just some quick ideas and thoughts as to how they might do it. Please let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of this Canucks offseason? Where do you guys think they should go? Who do you think they should trade for? Who should they re-sign? Is Besser gone? Is he not? Will they re-sign Suter? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I'm small enough as to where I can respond to all comments and love doing so. So please drop something down there. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. Please subscribe if you really enjoyed the Spit Sports Show. Just over 400 subscribers. Big things happening on the channel. And as always, I will see you all in the next. Peace out. I love you guys.